You probably want to just do the motions. There we go. We're recording now. We're good.
Okay.
And then we
Need
can
a
say
motion to
goodbye.
come out of executive session?
Make a motion.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carried. Now that we're out of executive session, back into normal, we're looking for a motion
To approve.
to approve the agreement between the Board of Water Commissioners, the Kingston Water Department, with Shaw, Carlson, May, and Lambert, LLP.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Second. Those in favor?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Now, this is making the agreement with the attorney, but they still have to ratify it and everything, and if they're not acceptable, the union of the members. And it just comes back and they tweak it and then.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
normal negotiations, it goes back and forth, it gets to a point
So we're
where
not ratifying the contract, we're just ratifying the agreement.
we're just, the agreement with the attorneys who are representing us in the negotiations.
Okay.
I mean, at some point in time, we'll have a vote to ratify.
It's the contract.
What? Oh, okay. So
At some point in time, I mean, it may be to a point where we have to, we don't come to an agreement,
we've done that.
we've, what's the term?
You go to impasse and then you impose,
Some oppose the contract.
Right.
Yeah.
and that's happened. And this agreement covers us till we get to that point, even through if we go to mediation and fact finding. It's been a long time, hasn't it, Julie, since we actually signed a contract without going to mediation?
Last round of bargaining, I think, was the first time in about a decade.
Yeah, I mean, usually they think there's more on the end of the rainbow, and so that if they bring in an outsider. And we end up settling for what we offered, but it's a process that you must go through. So, anyway.
Okay, any other questions?
I think we just have, just to, now, they have their own bargaining.
The union,
Union, what union?
they're asking,
Oh, okay. All right.
their council.
Council
Section-
56.
Yeah,
Okay.
and their president, I think, is out of Ellenville.
Yes.
It's us, the Ellenville Water and Sewer, and a few other. So. The ASME contract, our contract is, there's things, the benefits are largely similar to what CSEA has in the city, but it's not exactly the same. You know, we have some advantages and some disadvantages, and at the end of the day, I think it all evens out, but depends what you're arguing about at that time. I'm very fond of saying, if you want to work for the city, I think the mayor has an application, he give it to you and see where you stand. They never do that, though, do they?
We don't seem to get a lot of water department employees to come want to work for us over here.
We don't get a lot on the other end either, so I just want to say that, so they, you know, must be okay. So.
Okay, vote to accept the agreement. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried, thank you.
Good,
Thank you,
Julie.
Julie.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you all. It's nice to
You're
see you
welcome.
all. Stay
You're
safe.
welcome to stay.
I've got little boys running downstairs that are waiting to see me, so I'm gonna gracefully peace out. Have a good night.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Take good care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, moving on to the regular agenda then.
Yep.
Reading of the minutes of the previous meeting.
Make a motion to accept the minutes of previous meeting.
Second. Thank you. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. You finished auditing the bills and accounts? Okay, so we'll move on. Presentation of bills and accounts.
I make the motion, we accept the bills and accounts as presented.
Okay,
I'll second
those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Cooper Lake improvements.
Project's moving along. There, my only concern is the show can work hasn't really started yet. You will recall that we really wanted that possibility for that temporary connection before we really started with the work. Because the project labor agreement took a lot longer than certainly I anticipated, we had to let them kind of start both the work at Cooper and the Ashokan work simultaneously. The issue is with the DEP itself. 2 years ago, we had all the permits lined up and everything was fine. And now it seems to be that when the contractor wants to move on to the site to actually do the work, there's maybe one individual in their organization that wants to revisit everything. And so I expect that to come to a halt very quickly because we really need to get over there and get that done.
What do they need to revisit? What do you mean revisit everything?
You ever get an individual that's just a pain in the neck? Well, this is one of them. And so she has questions about the wetlands.
And this isn't the D.
It's a DEP employee.
Okay.
So,
okay,
no, it's not any,
Okay.
our engineers are frustrated, our contractors are frustrated, we're
So
frustrated.
this person isn't basically up to date on things or hasn't made themselves up to date. on
That's
things.
exactly what her problem is.
Yes. that
Anyway,
sounds like what the problem is.
I kind of went around her on Friday, and I think by the end of the week, I'm hoping that we'll have permits and the contractor can actually get Central Hudson in there. And the only thing we have to do on that property is to put an electric drop in. It's really, of all all the other components are either done on our property.
This is a permit just for this particular work, or is this the overall
Overall. There's-
permit?
There's two permits. There's one like a land lease where we're leasing this space on their property, and the other is an access permit. So any employee of the Kingston Water Department can go on site over there because we have a permit. The contractors, it's a security thing. She's just trying to, I believe that the DEP has an individual that is in charge of, outreach to all the watershed communities. And he told me Monday morning that he'll get this resolved. I'm
So the
hoping that-
permit is on the general access permit?
there's a land use permit, which we
Oh, both
certainly
of them?
have, and then there's kind of an annual land lease that we have to pay a modest amount of money. It's not, it's $1,000 or something a year. It's not much.
But the holdup was on both permits.
The whole holdup is she won't let the contractor on site. It's unnecessary because we did all this in March of 2020. We went over every one of these issues. And so, and there are other individuals in the DEP that are, kind of working to get this resolved. So the other issue is Matt has sent in all the application for the latest WIA grant. We've already applied for a loan for $8 million worth of water improvements on this project. So there's 3 phases. One is, the Ashokan and the actual intake and the tower, the intake tower and the associated pipe. That's actually water supply work, and that's fundable under the DWSRF. So we've already been approved for the financing there, kind of, but we're working toward that. We haven't closed on a loan or anything yet, but Matt's got it well on its way there. With the new WIA grant, there is a possibility that we could get of that $8 million that we're looking for a loan. There is a possibility that we can have $3 million as an outright grant. And all that paperwork is due November 22nd. We've had it in for a week and a half now. Because it was an easy lift for us in the sense that seeker's done, council approvals. I mean, all the heavy things that take time, that's all been done. So that's in, and hopefully if they're true to their word, they'll make a decision by December. So you might have a merrier Christmas, who knows?
So how much is that grant application for? How much?
3 million is the maximum. Sewer maximum is 25 million. Water maximum is 3 million. But we get 60% in grant and 40% loan, and wastewater can get 25% in grant and balance in loan, so it's different roadmap for which side of the pipe you're on.
So just for my clarification here, now you have total projects 20 million, and you can possibly get a loan for 8, is that all we need, is the 8 with the other 12?
We have financing, the whole project is financed through council bond approval from the council. But the more we can get funded through the EFC, certainly a grant is better than a loan. But the EFC is a subsidized loan rate. So it's better than a market bond. So for the portion of the dam work, that the actual physical remediation of the dam, at present, there's no funding for that. I've been told in this infrastructure bill that I think the president signed, or the president's gonna sign, the
I
past
think it's done. yeah.
whatever, I lost track. That there could be money for dam funding in that as well, and we'll stay tuned for that. But so, it's $20 million, some of it has to be market rate right now. Some of it could be subsidized rate, which is pretty significant, I mean, instead of paying 2%, you're paying 1.5%. I mean,
But the other benefit is if we get 8.3 in loan,
that's
they
right.
only give it to us as we spend it. So we only pay interest
So
on what we
within
take
it,
out.
that'll be a 2-year period, right?
Right, but if you
Yeah,
get a
right
market,
Now we have money taken out already on a short-term gain, but we're paying interest on all of it. No, not
Is that reflected in the new budget, like 22's budget?
Mhm.
the payment.
It's
is,
200 and some
300.
thousand. And that equates to 6%, right?
Mhm,
So that's what I'm saying, now we're looking at 8 million.
mhm.
What's the percentage on that? 16% or more? Because it's 50,000 to pay back $1 million within a 25-year time frame, right?
I have
He's got a
on the
budget.
money that we have, I think some of it can be bonded maybe next year, for 9.6 of it, and that would be a total interest payment roughly of 400 a year on 20 years,
And that's
starting at 400, all the way to 640.
so that's what,
20 years.
8% increase?
Oh,
Rate?
for rates, yeah, next year, 6.
8% that. Isn't the water or the sewer bonding 9 million?
I know anything about sewer bonding.
Isn't the sewer bonding 9 million?
Yeah, we just did a $9 million project that we're doing.
That goes in that budget, right?
Not our budget,
Well, it goes in that rate that the
well, not,
bill's going out on, right?
it's reflected in the bill, because if they have to have a rate increase to cover their, capital costs, that's part of the water bill, but. We try to, and it does have an impact, we get yelled at, no matter who raises the bill, that people are looking at the total bill, there's no question about that. But in terms of our budget, it's only the water side that we're reflecting, so the water portion of your bill will go up 6%, and the sewer portion is gonna go up. So the whole thing collectively might go up 10, or I don't know.
Well, if you had that 9 in, which they probably have that same $50,000 threshold that is a percentage. You get your bill in the mail, it's gonna be like, oh shit, it's gone up 12%.
I don't think the sewer rate has been officially determined, but I think based on my conversation with the mayor, they're looking at something less than 5%.
Oh, less than.
But it may not, but it may be more than 4,
So it would be 12% increase,
could be.
plus we just went up 6.
Well, we gotta figure that out, we gotta have a.
Right, we have to.
We have to have a workshop to go over our budget, that would be one of the things we're gonna discuss tonight, is setting up the time between now and next meeting. To have a workshop, and as opposed to sitting here and trying to.
No, I'm just in general, just to get some kind of focus that when the people come screaming at me, I
Duck.
duck.
Well,
Part of it is the lake,
Well,
Well, I know it's all federally mandated, you
so,
know.
yeah.
we've been telling them for 5 years it was coming, so.
Yeah, but they don't know it until all of a sudden.
Yeah, I know, they see it.
That's all of a sudden.
Well, yeah, it will, yeah. So that's really, Cooper Lake actually is going very well. I mean, you know, we have a good contractor, good supervision,
But the subsidized loan
would be a huge help.
would be taking off some of that demand we have right now, right?
Yes. I mean,
Reduce it, and then if we get a grant, or we get a grant for that, it reduces it even
we
more.
would still need a lot of the money that we already have, but what we would need for the drinking water portion, we would take from ESC as we spend it, pay interest on what we
Okay.
withdraw from them, because they disperse it based on invoices.
They keep the money and you keep it in circulation,
If I get
they leverage
invoice
it.
for $500,000, I send it to them, they give me the money in the bank account next week.
And there's still hope that there's any money in the, I mean, we got money for the design, a little bit of money for the design portion of the dam. We're hoping that came through who?
Well, and
DEC, right?
your buddy Roger Sokol, who was pretty high up in the health department,
Yeah.
I sat with him at a meeting up in Albany, we happened to just sit next to one another. And he said he thinks, because I'm always talking to everybody about, we need money for dams, we need money for dams. So he looks at me and goes, oh, there she is, the dam person. And anyhow, he said he thinks his information is in the new federal legislation, there would be funding available maybe for that. So,
Well, and I just think somehow we should get this information out ahead of time a little bit. I mean, there have to be facts, just because then they're gonna be aware. If they're not aware, all of a sudden, I don't think they'll be very happy.
Yeah, we've been talking
We've been
about
doing
this
that.
since this whole thing has been going on, yeah, we made an announcement a couple of years ago now about the whole thing about Cooper Lake. Judy had a whole article in the paper about the cost of Cooper Lake and how the water
Those
department was trying to.
public meetings.
yeah, we
Yeah,
can
and how
do
we're
another.
trying to not have to have such a huge rate increase. We've been trying to come up with really creative ways, and a few of them are, I guess we're still looking at, like the
No.
reservoirs.
Yeah,
which I
sell
don't
some
know.
property, I guess,
Yeah, so
Do that.
we have been, like, everybody's aware of the.
And it's
Ticket shop.
it's not a one time. It's 20 years.
You know,
Plus increases every year on labor and stuff, so it's gonna be that'll be the new price, and then it'll
Yeah.
continue going up from there.
And I think that's a trend you're gonna see across the country. Certainly in New York State, with the cost of, some of these new treatment systems that are being built to take care of some of these new emerging contaminants that we're, knock on wood, we're fortunate we don't have to deal with. But, I
But we might have to deal with the federal government's replacing the lead services all the way.
yeah, we will,
Maine.
we will.
It sounds like there's money, I mean, that's one of the programs they talk about being in this infrastructure bill is
Right, and
lead money.
I met with the mayor's consultant for the money that the city's already gotten.
I was gonna ask you that next.
And I did, and while I
Thank
made,
you for that.
I said, Cooper, that would be huge if, you give staff it for Cooper Lake, I'm only kidding.
Or something,
Something, I said,
something.
and I said, but I don't think that's really gonna fly, but I said, there's some other issues, and one of them is lead services, and there's a perfect project for a pilot on that on Henry Street. Because the city's doing work on Henry Street, there's 65, possibly 65 lead services, the street's gonna be open, it's gonna be paved, let's try to get them out. So I'm providing her with some money on some of those projects, so that would be a good project. And I know there's a lot of people in the city looking for a piece of that $17 million, so, it's not gonna be an easy choice for anybody.
Well, that's another reason why you should get out ahead, because all of a sudden they're gonna say, well, why didn't you go to this?
Well, we did.
And ask that money.
Right.
This way you can say, hey, we tried.
I'm gonna send her some real numbers and some other things, next week, and, so, then we have done that, yes, we have met, and,
Now, do we have a work change order here too?
what?
Yes, the direction.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. That was so long ago, I did that on Friday. Yes, this is a I wouldn't say it's non-substantive, But there was more riprap and stone and geotextile fabric that needed to be placed on the west dike than we had anticipated when we got out there and we actually were surveying. We have a $300,000 contingency that's built into the price. So even though this change order is for, I'm sorry, the price is.
50 to 60.
Yeah, I was gonna say somewhere between around $55,000, it will come out of the 300,000. And that's the purpose of 300,000. So far, we haven't altered the total price of the contract yet. We're hoping to keep it that way. And this is,
Is this something that our engineers didn't pick up? Or
no, I don't think so, no.
at what point in time do we go back to the engineers and say, when did they? I mean, what, we hired them, paid them millions of dollars to
Yes, we have.
put together a document to go out to identify the cost.
Yeah,
I mean, when does the engineer start being responsible for these overruns?
I haven't seen it yet.
And it seems like an area issue, right?
I'll ask.
How much area do you have? You need X amount for it. You know, it seems
Yeah,
like
it's just
something they should be
frustrating
able to
When they
determine.
We have a meeting on Tuesday. I will actually talk to Greg ahead of time because the contractor's also on that meeting, so I don't want to put him on the spot in front of everybody, but I will certainly have that
At
conversation.
what point in time do we not approve it? I mean,
I think it says here, that the riprap was considered, from what I'm reading, it is more than was required after they started to do it than was anticipated. It's not that they didn't anticipate the riprap was required, they estimated that, was the placement of additional.
it says placement of riprap at this specific location was not addressed in the contract documents.
But it says in the opening and description, it says placement of additional riprap. Then, first line.
I'll get a clarification on that. It's a very good question, Dennis. I mean, you know, the only
I
people.
mean, I guess if they would have identified it, the cost of the contract would have been higher, but you know, it's just.
You know, let's ask the question.
Right.
It'll at least signal that people are paying attention,
Yeah.
and that's not a bad thing. But, you know, this isn't just a road stamp, oh yeah, we got the money.
That's 1/6 of the contingency. fund.
That's correct.
On the very first work,
Yeah.
yeah, it's 18% or
Yeah.
whatever of the contingencies going on the very first
I will.
months of the work. We got another
I will
year
get
and a
the
half, 2 years to
absolutely.
go. So do we need to approve this, or is this just?
Yes, you need to approve that and a motion to approve that. And then you'll execute and get it back to them. But I certainly will make them give us a better explanation.
Okay, someone want to make that motion?
I'll make one.
Okay, I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion? You want my high horse?
That's good.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Yes. Is that it for Cooper Lake?
That's it.
Okay. Transmission main rehab project.
You know, that's kind of on hold until the valves come in. And they're not, I don't know which, we have 18s and 20s on order. Couple of them are, the 18s are, for example, are supposed to come in the end of December, but the other ones aren't coming in until February. So there's not much else that can be done here until then. And, you know, that's really,
Okay, February, wow.
yeah, no, I mean, they were ordered, it's not like the contractor didn't order them, he ordered them 6 months ago. It's just, you know, COVID,
Mhm.
that's road plates out there.
Do they cover?
A mess that Central Hudson's making.
Oh, okay, good.
Central
Somebody or
Hudson,
mess.
no. Central Hudson's running a new duck bank down from here, this substation for the, hook to Benny up, new hospital. And they've encountered massive Verizon ducts that they didn't know were there. And so they're they weren't anticipating doing all this, but they had to kind of,
Some might be the heating lines coming from the firehouse up to the city hall or something.
they come from here. This was a heating plant. And I don't think that's it, but it could be, but there were definitely Verizon ducts that are in their way. So they had to dig a different path. So the road plates are there for a little bit.
Okay, we had 2020.
RFP for the SCADA portion should be back in 2 weeks. For some hardware and some installation, none of them rise to the level of a required bid because they're minor amounts. And we will have bid documents on the valves in the distribution system. You know, I expect it like in mid-2020, like the spring.
The
Bid documents.
bid documents will be ready then.
Yeah. We're moving on that project, it's just, getting the documents together for the valves is a little more challenging because it's not one size fits all. Every intersection is a little bit different. And Ryan and his team, I mean, they've done a really neat job of working with the engineers to figure out the depth and map out the whole intersection. You know, Ryan's and Debbie is putting it all in GIS, so I mean, it's actually, it's time well spent, but it's making this a little easier.
So that money has been all approved,
Yes,
and that sits where, up there with DFC?
Yeah, it just closed last week, I think.
Okay. And that money's good until,
it tells us not.
oh, okay.
Usually, I think 3 years,
Okay.
or what they hope for, but they're very flexible. There's changes that require, like COVID, something
And it's the same thing, that's a grant / loan?
900 and 600. So 900 was the grant, 600 was a loan.
And it's a subsidized loan. And when we get an invoice, Matt sends it to EFC, within the week, money gets wired to us, and we pay the bill. So it's really, and we only pay interest on what we withdraw. So the bands are, it's actually a nice way to fund a project.
Free money. So to speak. Tech City,
I have no further details on that.
did you get a chance to go out and take some
I haven't-
measurements or flows to see exactly what they're using and who?
I haven't, and I apologize, but it's been a little money with all the other stuff we're doing, but we will go out there and do that. Before our next meeting, we'll have all that out there done.
And nothing new on getting anything from the
You know, we
title companies from the previous sales?
heard from the owner who was, hey, our title company screwed up, they will pay you. And then we heard from the title company and say, why should we pay? So,
The title company wrote it?
the title company called and spoke to Kevin answered the phone. And basically said, why should we pay? We called the town of Ulster. Well, if they had called the town of Ulster, the town of Ulster would have told them to call us. Because the town of Ulster is very well aware of who supplies the water and who supplies the sewer. They didn't do that. There's a suggestion that the property owner doesn't want anybody to know about any of this stuff. He just wants to, whatever. That's his legal quagmire to get into ours.
Is it worth a phone call back to the title company other than just talking to
I've
Kevin?
heard, I mean, I don't see it as a title issue, I see it as the owner's issue.
Okay.
I mean, if I do a lot of real estate work, and what I normally do as the attorney for the purchaser, I usually ask them this question: do you have electric and water to the house? And so we're getting, All the title company is going to do is they're going to make sure that that if there is any outstanding bills, liens on the property, on the title, then they are required to notify and make sure that's covered at the closing. Now, there are no liens filed against the property.
And if he didn't tell him where he was getting his water from, he wouldn't have known to make a phone call.
I mean, it's.
And he's done that, the allegation is that that's been done purposely by him.
Wells are
If you go
managed
to the
by
house and
fire.
there's no heater in it, it's not a title issue.
No,
Do we file a lien then now?
You can't file it.
Oh,
it's not the city case.
oh.
The issue is just gonna be, as I explained to the attorney for the purchaser, I said, does your client, is he aware of the fact that as of January, you'll have no water service?
Mhm.
No, well, you better communicate that to him. Because that's what's gonna happen, in my opinion.
I do know that Ulster County is looking for a new 911 site. And the consultant that they hired gave me a list of 5 sites that they're looking at, and one of the old Bank of America buildings is one of those 911 sites. So they're gonna need to deal with the water supply if that becomes the chosen site.
I would recommend another letter going out to Mr. Ginsburg, to the county,
Okay,
and to all those tenants of whom we know.
okay.
Reminding,
Yeah, just keep sending letters.
I mean, we normally read that meter on a monthly basis anyway.
Yes, sir, we do.
So, I mean, I like to kind of figure out.
Oh, Matt,
that-
between Matt and Jane gets the readings and they're up to date on who owes what and how,
You know, farm to table is no longer operating, right?
They paid.
They paid for their usage through October,
Okay.
and their last bill was like $50. And they paid for that. I want to say this week they paid,
yeah, they're done.
so I'm assuming they're not done.
Right, it's be nice to kind of know who's using, or how much water is being used out there. I
Should
mean, I
be
go past, I see cars in the front part of,
Bank of America?
no,
Oh, the other.
the east side, I mean, I guess Ginsburg must still have some people that work in some office, right?
Got a maintenance person there.
Others, I mean, go past there and any given
Yeah, there's a
day of the
couple
week,
of,
there's,
yeah.
there's 3, 4, 5 cars.
Are you talking about the building with the clock? I mean, that's what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I understand is Ginsburg is going to be giving a deed of no foreclosure to the county. And the county is then going to transfer that property. That's secondhand information. I don't have any way to verify it, but that's the way I understand it's occurring.
That was based on this afternoon's conversation. Okay.
Transfer the property to,
Ginsburg would transfer his ownership, his title to the property. That's building with the clock.
to the county.
East side.
Yeah.
The county, and then the county would then transfer that property to a new purchaser. And it's not been identified. Which is why I think that the letter should go out, be timely letter going out now. I don't think that vote is going to occur this week. People have talked about it,
Was it allegedly supposed to occur on Friday?
possibly.
Yeah, but I don't, I mean, I have to say, that's from the same secondhand source that you
But
talked.
I think a letter should go out to the county, who's going to sell the property. Notify that this is going to occur in January. I would think that would put some responsibility on the seller to notify the purchaser. Hey, listen, you've got a heater in the building, yeah, it's gonna work, but by the way, we're taking it out after the closing. It gives some responsibility to the seller.
Well, the original letter said January 15th.
Right.
We should stick with that date.
To be honest with you, unless somebody tells me differently, I would think it would be appropriate to just put a cover letter and just to say, just as, if direction of the Board of Water Commissioners, please be advised that.
Here's our letter of.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, I mean, you can send that out under
Friday.
your signature,
Yeah.
because the letter's already going out under my signature.
Right.
Oh, it's just-
The letter was sent to you at such a date. May not receive a response,
Yeah.
call it to your attention,
Right,
emergency.
yeah.
We can figure out the flows from
They
there.
want to know.
I'll do that. I can do that from in here because we have them, I just haven't done it yet. Because we read it monthly. And we can read it more often than that if we have to. Because you can read it, it's all radio read,
Mhm.
so you can sit in the parking lot and pick up all the readings. It's not a challenge whatsoever.
Surface leaks, service leaks.
Oh, that's just, we talked about that, we had a whole bunch out there that we were gonna, some of them have been fixed. The one that's running down Hasbrook Avenue, we hired Jeff Lau to repair that because the owner absolutely wasn't gonna do it. So Jim, I want you to sit down, but we have two mains in that portion of Hasbrook Avenue. There's one that's about 3 feet off the curb line where the water's running, and the other one's on the opposite side of the street. And because the road there is concrete, it's really hard to get a signal. So if we think the service lateral is on the main in the curb, nearest the house. Jeff, and we put it out to 2 plumbers, and they were within $150 of each other. It's gonna be between 11 and 15,000 to do from the curb stop to the water main. 11 if it's the water main that's 3 feet off the curb, and 15 if it's on the other side. And it'll be an additional 4 if they have to go into the house, about and change, right, 4, 8, 4, 7,
Yeah.
almost 5. So
Is this the part that's been like cut off, those houses that are along that?
no, this is right here on the corner of Hasbrook and East Chester. running down East Chester.
Okay, yeah, I see them.
Yeah, and it's running down toward Walgreens.
Oh, is that much money? Because it's so busy or something?
I have no idea. Oh, it's prevailing wage, because we're hiring
Oh my God.
prevailing wage. So because it's that big ticket item, the others that are still leaking, they're gonna wait. They're not surfacing. If they become a problem, we'll deal with them one at a time. But the truth is, our budget can't take $100,000 to Jeff Lau and Carl Bell. Because they're the only 2 guys that actually do that work now. So,
Wouldn't be worth it to send these people a letter telling them,
oh, they've gotten letters.
well, the difference between them getting it fixed
Oh, we've done that.
with a regular
Oh,
plumber
yeah.
versus us repairing it, paying prevailing wage.
We did that.
Okay.
They've gotten that. And we also put a $500 administrative fee in there because, we've had to call plumbers, meet plumbers. Matt's got to deal with the billing. We have to put them on. So just the fact that you got a letter and said, the water department does, and it's gonna cost you at least $500 more. That would be incentive enough for most normal people. And for the people that aren't fixing it, we're nailing them every quarter, $50 fine, $50 fine, $50, and they're
How
paying.
are they paying? They're paying it?
A lot of people are.
I guess where? Are they just looking at the bottom line?
I don't know.
and
I
paying
don't
it?
know, but there's a handful more out there that we really should do. But I really don't wanna incur that expense. We know we're coming up on a tough budget cycle. And I just wanna, in the spring. We can deal with it maybe, if it gets worse, we'll have to. I'll tell you when they really fix it. We had a customer on Main Street. A guy drove, literally, somebody hit their, because the curb reveals, and people just drive on the sidewalk anyway, I guess. I mean, they drive up on the curb. But they sheared it, it must have been a big truck, because it sheared it completely and hardly ever does that. It usually just breaks it and it leaks a little bit. So, yeah, this sheared it completely, had no water. 2 days, and Carl down there, it was all fixed. I'd like to go take the big truck and drive around and just make it worse. Not like it.
This isn't covered by homeowners at all, right?
It could be. There is an insurance you can buy.
Oh, but you have to already have purchased it.
Well, there have been some people that I've dealt with, and I advise everybody. Check with your homeowners. One lady actually had homeowners insurance that covered it in her policy, she had no idea.
Mhm.
But there's a company called HomeServe that's owned by the American Water Works Company, which is a for-profit investor-owned water utility. And it's very nominal cost, but it covers your water lateral and your sewer lateral, and they hire the plumber, licensed plumber for you.
Mhm.
They have a list of people, and it's not, it's.
Don't you think that that company would do some kind of research to make sure that it's kind of like.
No, they have so many things.
No,
You think?
And you buy that maintenance on your car.
it's like
Put new
16
engine in, whatever you need.
it's like $16 a month.
Yeah,
It's not expensive.
No, it's not.
Okay, no, it's not expensive. Oh,
No.
but if you already have, but if you already have a leaking service
I said, I'm
line,
gonna go home and look at my policy.
and you call them up and say, yeah, I wanna,
Seriously,
I don't know how long you gotta sign that.
that's a lot
A
of money.
contract for.
A year.
Yeah,
Well, $16 a month for a year, it's a lot cheaper than.
an outlay of $20,000.
Yeah,
So
it's-
I can't imagine that
Well,
people wouldn't be doing that, and they wouldn't be able to catch on that.
They came to us
No.
once and they wanted us
To
to.
take out an insurance policy and a month later, I'm now trying to.
usually there is, I think, some kind of, usually like, you can't just make a claim. I
No, you
think
have to wait like
yeah,
6 months.
Exactly,
Because my sister
Yeah.
had this.
Yeah.
The only reason I know about the insurance.
because too many people would do that.
I think if the rates keep going up so high, the water department should look into it,
What?
doing that services. Repairing, replacing them, whatever,
We
for 11
need,
grand.
we
You
need,
know,
we need a lot, we need more equipment
I
and.
mean, our people do
Yeah.
the work
We have to hire a
In-house
plumber.
type of thing.
and just charge the
We have
homeowner.
to hire a plumber.
Or get a water department person with a license.
Yeah, we have one of those. We could get another, we could get somebody else to get licensed.
Germany could come down and do it for you.
Huh?
Germany could come down and do it
Yeah,
for you.
but- yeah.
you know, the
Some
only reason.
liability.
Oh, yeah, that would be,
Yeah, but I'm sure your liability covers them doing their work, I'll tell you that, because how much you pay.
Bill, it's
Well, I
good.
don't mean somebody being injured, I mean like, future disruptions, once they make a mistake in installation.
Let me, look, the lead and copper rule is gonna force you to do this anyway. Because the federal legislation says, and I don't mean to digress, but the federal legislation that's gonna take effect in 2024, and it seems like a long way away, but it really isn't. It says that if you don't pass the lead, if you exceed the lead limits, you gotta take 3% of those services out every year, even if you don't own them. Well, water department is responsible, the utility from the main to the curb, even if you don't own them. And you have to offer to do the inside service as well, if you're doing it. And it also says you don't have to pay for what you don't own. And New York City's got the same issue that we have. Rochester had the same issue. Rochester just said, oh my God, we can't put $10,000 on every other person's bill on the block, right? So what they did, Rochester just said, we're just gonna take over from the water main to the curb. And any leak, we're just gonna fix, and we're gonna hire, and that's what we're gonna do,
Curb or to the meter?
to the curb. To the curb. And then if the homeowner refuses to do their own portion, then you get them to sign a release and say, hey, I know it's lead, I just can't afford it, I'm not gonna do it, you're absolved. But a lot of this department is gonna be forced to make that decision.
I know you don't want to depress, but how many would you estimate what percentage of the cities?
That's a problem, we're looking at that now. One of the first things we have to hand in 24 is a lead service line inventory. I would say that just based on tap dates, you're probably looking at 5,000 of the 9,000 services. But damn these plumbers, over the years, the only way we know is we have to make a new tap for the plumber. And lead taps for like an individual home are 1/2-inch taps. You can't reuse those, but plumbers have what they call a lead tap, and they hook to the old service, the new one. So when the mayor had this money go out and they had a list, they came to us and they said, well, I said, yeah, that tap was made, our records show that tap was made 1894. Should be lead. They dig down, and at some point in the past, there's a lead gooseneck, and then there's this little connector, and it's copper, and then it's copper. So I don't know how many lead services there are. That was a very long
But
one.
wasn't there just a time that they use lead service and then, oh,
Correct,
they don't use lead services anymore?
correct.
But wasn't there just like a window of time period when?
Yeah, from like 1894 to 1950,
So
Tiny
what
little
about
window.
Before that,
huh?
what about before that?
We didn't exist.
50
Oh,
years.
yeah,
It wouldn't
yeah,
be
yeah,
easy.
yeah, that's true, that's true.
But Judy, you
Yeah.
know, and myself doing it, my personal experience, it's probably one of the easiest plumbing jobs there are, you know what I mean? You got like 3 nuts and you're done. And the water department is there probably 25% of the time doing the
What
hardest
I
part
wanted-
of
what I'd
putting the
like to-
tap in and putting
To give the mayor's consultant the number, how many hours? as a
they're there a
month?
long time,
How, I mean.
especially if it's not prepared right, and they don't dig the hole right.
Well, suppose the hole is done properly, you get Vinnie or the team to dig the hole, or Bucky to dig the hole. How long does it take the plumber to do the work? You make it
If you have the tap on?
Yep.
I would say, I don't know, 3 hours at the most.
So you figure half a day's labor,
Oh, yeah.
okay. I was gonna ask you that question, how many hours?
Person asked.
You know,
I know.
probably the hardest part of the deal is if you got to solder something in the house. And that's it. That's from the curb all the way in.
Okay,
All you do is roll that copper out. It's like in flare. You have 3 flares.
Right.
And with the nuts, and you give us the parts and you supply all the material, they're in the copper.
right.
So we don't, you know, and we just roll it out and.
It's, we gotta look at all of it, and that's what we're.
And like I said, you're there, and if anything, you know, they get right, and you gotta clean the pipe, takes a little while, you're probably there. I'd say a good 2 hours, just getting ready and putting the tap in.
Oh, just to
And the
prepare,
plumber's just standing around watching, he's not.
it's no different than preparing a leak. If you know you got a leak in a ring crack down there, you gotta dig to it, then you gotta clean that pipe.
Yeah.
And you gotta really get it clean to be able to put the
Yeah, it
sleeve
looks brand
on.
new when they're ready to
Oh my God, yeah, no, I know.
tap in.
All right, good,
Yeah,
thank
we'll
you.
push that back.
Yeah, okay.
I just have a suggestion for this whole cost to, for the leaks here.
Yeah.
Perhaps if we would send the people, an estimate of what we are going to have to pay, which they are going to be charged. And, you know, just bring home the numbers to them, maybe then they would go out and find their own plumber at a lot less cost. I have a feeling that the reason why people aren't doing this is they just can't afford it, they probably can't afford it, they're probably, whatever it is, financial situation they're in. Because if there's somebody telling you it has to get done, and you're gonna get billed for it anyway, well, they think, okay,
And
I'm gonna
it's
get
usually
billed from the water
very,
department, and then I can pay them like so much a month or something, like I can set up a payment plan.
right, I think they go on the taxes, doesn't it?
Or we'll go on the taxes.
Which gives them time. But usually you're in the house and you know you have an issue because your pressure's down to nothing and
Yeah.
taking enough water, so you're living really probably not very comfortable.
Yeah, but
So
they
if you
probably
could
can't-
possibly
yeah,
do
but
it-
They probably can't afford a
No,
plumber,
they
and the
can't.
plumber won't take probably a payment plan.
Right.
Maybe some do, but maybe some don't, I don't think. You
No, I
need
think
a payment
plumbers wanna
plan.
get
Most
paid.
people need the money right there, right?
Most of the plumbers wanna get paid, I don't blame them.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
yeah, because they don't know if the person's gonna
They're not social
go
workers.
not
and be able to
institution.
keep on paying them. So I think that's why it probably is, that's why but maybe if you say, hey, this is what it's gonna cost us to do it, and it's gonna be put on you, I don't know, that's the only thing
Joanne,
I can
I
think
think-
of why
I
they wouldn't be
think-
doing it.
We've done that, but I think we could be more explicit.
Yeah, with numbers.
Yeah,
Like
And maybe just say-
$11,000 to $15,000.
Yeah, that was
We've done our
Yes.
We've done our first one,
yeah,
and it's gonna cost between $11,000 and $15,000. And you're on our list,
Yeah,
you probably get a better rate directly with the plumber.
yeah.
I mean, that's probably 5 years worth of taxes for.
Lawyers have pro bono, maybe pro bono.
you think plumbers do?
Some do, I did for jobs,
I bet you did,
yeah, for veterans and stuff. that
Yeah,
were-
I bet you did. yeah, I know Jeff Lau has to.
Yeah, most guys.
And any place that like you're on the board of, that's where like, you know, I know the wire taps onto him all the time because Jeff's on board.
Mhm.
I think that happens all the time. to people in town. So, yes,
Well, that's a big nut to go under taxes. So 3 years later, right,
And
lose your house?
it's really not the plumber, it's the excavator that gets the.
You're right.
that's true.
And they, you know, and the taps are up and all that stuff, which would all be proper, you know, you wouldn't even have to charge.
Are you suggesting they get, that the water department hire an excavator and people to do this like on a regular basis?
Yeah,
Is that
that's what he's saying.
That's the ultimate.
We already have that.
Equipment.
MEO, they had a few Bucky Hammer, they got a hole for you in a heartbeat.
We need more of him. We do need more, I mean, we need another person like him. And we need maybe a smaller, like a Bobcat as well. We need another dump truck. You're talking about $250,000 worth of upfront equipment, and we need at least 2 more employees.
But you know, we will all pay off for you.
And you're probably right, I'm not arguing.
You could go look at those other leaks you're looking for and fix them in a heartbeat. You put those valves in there, you subcontracting out, they could go do that too.
Well, we have a valve insertion tool, we do a lot of our own work, God knows, I mean, it's just,
I mean, DPW used to do a lot of their
Yeah.
own sewer work too, and they don't do anything.
they put
So,
blacktop in the hole.
you know, I don't know why they changed.
Okay.
Part of the change, I think, is they don't have the same people that they had before. And they don't have as many people. Our numbers really haven't declined. They got hit with those layoffs and they've never come back. But also, they had a huge brain drain in retirements. And I don't think they've been able to hire that kind of power back. I don't think. I mean, I can, you and I can sit here and name the names that they had over here who used to do that work.
Yeah.
And they're not there anymore. All right, we will.
Thanks. Moving on. 2022 budget. I guess we talked about setting up a workshop as opposed to going through everything. Now everybody has a copy of the draft. When is a good time for us to meet to do that? Everybody's schedules.
Probably for me on Mondays and Wednesdays.
Okay,
Yeah, that's the days for me also.
need to do this before, obviously, map time to tweak everything, but, okay, so.
We'll have it done by tomorrow. He's probably sitting here doing half of it now. Yeah, no kidding.
Well, Mondays and Wednesdays are good for me also, so.
Mondays and Wednesdays are the only evenings.
I'm not-
I teach on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so Mondays and Wednesdays are perfect.
good. Somebody wanna pick?
Well, I guess maybe after Thanksgiving. Right, or do we have to do this like next week?
I do before the board meeting in December, correct?
You wanna do it that close to the meeting, the 6th, or you wanna do it on the 29th of November? That's a Monday. Wednesday's December 1st, that's a
I
week
wouldn't want
before.
to do it on the 29th of November, just because I'm having people
So close
visit,
to-
and they're leaving on the
Thanks.
1st. So that would probably do something the night before they leave.
When was that Thanksgiving? When was that Thanksgiving?
Well,
That's
Thanksgiving is the
that's
25th, the
Wednesday
Thursday.
after Thanksgiving.
My family.
With the 1st, or do you wanna do the 6th?
I don't care. As long as it's a, Matt, do you have any preferences?
Nope.
I don't.
Probably, that you could say, you can say the 1st is fine, that way I don't have to take anybody to the airport, I have an excuse.
Okay.
Cause I think I'm the ones who are picking them up from the airport next Wednesday,
You think?
I think.
Okay, December 1st, at what time?
I mean, I can be here as early as probably 4, if we wanna start earlier.
But that's up to you guys.
I mean.
Okay,
We're here, I'm here at your disposal.
Available too, so I mean, you're the one that
You're the one that
travels and
Yeah.
works full time and everything, so.
We can shoot for 4 P
So
M.
how long do you think, I think maybe that would be nice, that way we wouldn't have, I don't know how long do we usually take, I don't know, or even remember. Last meeting, I think I didn't make last
I
year.
don't think
Yeah, I think you
you did, I
did.
think you did, I don't think you did.
No,
It shouldn't take more than an hour and a half, would you say?
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a whole lot of discretionary items in this budget that we can play with. There's a few equipment things, pieces that we wanna purchase,
Spend some time looking at it,
yeah,
have notes and questions prepared, and you kind of just go down, I wouldn't say line by line, but grouping by grouping, and kind of saying, anybody have any questions or concerns or suggestions? And then at the end, crunches the numbers and comes up with what the
the problem with.
rate increase would be.
With these budgets in these negotiating years, they're really tough, because you gotta hide the money somewhere in the budget, and you don't know how much you gotta hide. You have to put enough money in the way to pay for 2.75 raises, but if it's 3%,
Yeah,
what are you gonna do?
well,
We'll figure it out.
December 1st, 4 P M,
Okay.
okay,
we'll try to figure it all out, be prepared for next month's meeting.
for a reminder. I don't remember why I missed this one last year, I don't know if it was what it was, but I'll make sure.
What time meeting?
4 o'clock,
4 o'clock.
4,
4
and
o'clock.
I'll send you a Zoom link.
Okay,
4 o'clock on December 1st.
Not for anything, this evening, I can't do this, but you think the board should send some official requests for that money that they had? From the water department to try and offset our mortgage project,
Guess it wouldn't hurt sending.
just so it's on record, and they can't say we never tried,
Yeah, sure.
you know? I mean, I don't know what conversation you've had with the mayor, you should do or whatever, but I.
Oh, no, he keeps saying that, well, he wants to include us, but everyone else got an invitation, like by name.
Oh, yes.
And we didn't, we got it, it kept saying, go into our generic email, water at. And Matt kept sending them to me, because he and Jay monitor that.
And
And
he's not gonna get any heat from increased water bill, water department is.
well, I do think there's, she wasn't really keen on doing this, thing.
But you know, in the broad description of what you could use that money for, they did have, infrastructure projects, things like that, and it's
You
not
took-
something off the scale or anything.
No, and I think if you wanted to do Henry Street as a project, because they're doing the city's doing the safe streets to school thing, and then the sewer, engineering
He
walls.
also said one of those meetings that he had a grant in for additional money to do the replacements
Oh, good for him,
of the lead services.
good for him, because that'd be wonderful.
Well, he did, because we.
No, I know.
Because he did have money and spent it all. Originally, he was just gonna do Henry Street, that was it. I said, I go to houses every day and it could be a single woman living by herself that has a lead service, has to replace it. Why shouldn't she be entitled? It's not in the
Well, it's a-
designated area, but
It's
It's in
an,
the city.
it's an environmental justice area, Henry Street, they're all absentee.
exactly.
There's not a lot of owner occupied houses there. But the people that live there for a long time in many cases, the apartment, the people,
Mhm.
and the rents are just gonna get jacked up, so even though they don't own the house, it's still. So she seemed interested in that, I said, I can, kind of give you some numbers, and then for some reason, she really perked up with radio read meters, and because I was going through our capital, I'm like, really on a scale of 1 to 10, for me, if 1 was really my high priority, and 10, that might be an 11. How much is that gonna cost? So, God, we might get that out of the, I have no idea. And so I told her I would upgrade my capital plan, and send it to her by the 19th, which I'm halfway there. Friday, I'm gonna sit with Matt, he doesn't know it yet, we're gonna sit and go over a couple things.
Make your calendar, I mean.
No, I need his help, because he manages, I wanna be able to identify where our money, all of our grants have come from before, and he has that schedule, and where, which project came out of what, and so, and what we applied for. So I will send her some, but it wouldn't hurt to send a letter to him.
Yeah,
Everybody I say, the city got all this grant money, how can we not apply it to that?
Exactly, that's exactly what David said.
But I just want, we are part of, we are being considered as part of. And so what I understood from her was, she was gonna take all this input, and they were gonna come up with a plan and a priority, and then they're gonna have a public meeting, and all the not-for-profits want a piece of the pie too. I mean, there's a lot of people looking for that $17 million. And then they make recommendations, and the mayor will make a decision.
This is gonna hit every resident,
Yeah,
every single one.
Right, so, yes,
put something together.
I will.
You can attach your,
Yep.
what you call a plan.
I mean, we can all sign it if you don't wanna,
Yeah, I mean, I'll sign it if you want it coming from.
you know, have it come.
What you gonna do, fire
Good point, Jimmy.
me?
Good point.
No, I'm not worried about that.
Gotta be here to be fired, right?
No, I mean, you got 30 days, I can be retired, I can't, it's okay, that kind of thing is really. Yeah, I don't have a problem, but I'll share it with everybody, we get it done. We'll go out, I'll send it to her, and CC her on it. We'll do that, okay.
Correspondence?
I just have that crazy letter from Judge E. You see that?
Yeah, I saw
He
that.
said you were a really good man.
What kind of money were you talking?
I had no idea what his bill was, but it was a, you
I
know,
would say it was like $20.
it wasn't
It was
much.
$20.
It's just-
I think it was like $190 bill, so it's
It was
$20.
the 10%,
Yeah,
it's the panel
$19.
that he's looking for.
And his, he started, you know, Joe's very nice. He's not rude, he's not, he came in, Kevin waited on him. And he said, hey, I tried to pay this last night, and I really hope you're gonna waive this, because I really tried and the system wouldn't let me do it. And it's obviously something with your system. And Kevin said, and I would happen to be standing there, and so I said, hey, Joe, you know, really, Kevin can't waive that late charge. Including me, no employee of this department can waive any late charge. If the bill is late, it's late, but under those circumstances, why don't you shoot me an email and let the board decide. I don't wanna make a big deal about this. I said, well, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Kevin can't forgive that. So then I sent it, what Joe had sent me, I sent it to Matt, and Matt looked up, and what he had done is he made a typo in the bank routing number. So then he wrote back and said, well, I know it's my fault, but your system should have told me what it was, my mistake. And Matt's point is that a lot of people have made that same mistake and they just start over. And Joe probably was moving in 6 different directions at that time.
Made it seem like it was probably late at night or after.
It was 5 o'clock.
And what,
We probably, you know, I mean,
is there a particular, is it his house? Do you know what
I
property
don't
this is?
know, I have no idea.
Okay.
I didn't even ask, I just really wanted to drive home the point that, you know, no matter what your circumstances and how worthy, we really can't take those late charges off.
Yeah, we just don't do it. It's our
Right.
policy. We don't take them off, and it wasn't our fault. It
Right,
wasn't that the system malfunctioned, so unfortunately, we
Only
just.
because.
So it was operator
Right.
error.
but I
Yeah.
will say that what Joe did say was, he said, you know, I respect the fact, what I enjoy about working with the water department is that you have rules and they apply to everybody. I said, well, just send me the email and I'll forward it to the board, so. I don't really think that, and he doesn't expect you to do it.
Yeah.
So
I
you
just
just need to respond
unfortunately-
back to him or something?
No, I'll call, sure, absolutely.
Okay. Superintendent's report? There were a lot of taps in October. That
Yes.
year. So any particular,
Yeah, there is. Some of them were, that was the end of their lead replacement money. And so there were 3 or 4 of them to do that.
Okay.
We actually had a couple of people that actually fixed their leaks that we, in response to that letter that we sent out. 124 Henry Street, that was, that was a leak, we actually started to dig it because there was a tremendous amount of water coming up in the road. And that was a lead service, and the guy hired a plumber right on the spot and fixed it. So that's why we made all those taps. A lot of them were in response to our letters, so people are doing them. The Main Street one, he absolutely had no water, that's where the whole thing got sheared right off. So, yeah. And I think people, if you're gonna do it, this is the time to do it, because the blacktop plant closes next.
Where was the Main Street?
What?
Where was?
185. It's up toward your way, yeah, and somebody must have just sheared, and the other one here, there was another one on, it might have been this month. The other one where, the guy has a brand new service over here on, Pine Grove. And he had absolutely no water, called up, and turned out that Mullins had given him a brand new service because they had damaged it when they were down the street last summer. And somebody just ran over it again and sheared it again. He was like, oh my God, you know, it was, but that'll be on November 4th.
We've probably gone over this before, but the difference between the production and the consumption,
Yeah, consumption is what's going through the years.
I mean, some quarters, it's like,
Some quarters it's good, better, and some quarters it's horrible. Third quarter 2020 was pretty good. Third quarter of 21, not so great.
yeah, the second quarter of
It was
2020.
horrible.
It's horrible, yeah, so it's like half the production was lost or not paid.
You don't know where it was. You know, and it could be. I can't tell you. I know we've had discussions about the accuracy of our meters. So we know that our residential meters, I think are fairly accurate. I think we have some big meters that we need to look at.
Well, most of them were repaired in that last,
Not most of them,
I thought,
some of them.
well, some of them, the ones that they found that were not working, they repaired.
Well, yeah.
And the rest of them, they made it seem like they were functioning within standards.
Right, but I think there's still more that some we need to replace. And so I don't think we have a lot of main leaks. We've had a whole system leak detectors. So I know service leaks can be a big part of that. But, you know, I've been trying to get those numbers to be more in alignment forever, and I'm not successful. But it is troubling.
Yeah, it's just amazing the
It's troubling.
swing here. between-
I mean, one of the other things is, it depends on the zones, and the zones get read differently than the consumption, production meters, you know, the water coming into the system.
Yeah, but everything's getting read quarterly, right?
It is, and it should all even out. It should all flow out. So I don't have an easy answer for that. I wish I did. I think I've spent the last 15 years trying to figure that out, and I haven't gotten any closer. Every time I think I'm getting closer to that answer, it kind of eludes me, so. One last effort, we can have the major meters at Video Water calibrated. We can have that done, just to see if that's
Something there.
that. I mean, I don't know where else to go. Yes, we can do that. But that is a troubling fact of life. I mean, there's some city consumption, not metered consumption, but, you know, fires and street sweeping, but Not-
Shouldn't be
shouldn't be that.
half of your production
No, not at all.
on the second quarter.
Not at all, not at all.
Okay,
You have meters freezing, frozen meters?
Well, I haven't started yet, we're still fine from last year.
well, you look every month, there is
Oh, yeah.
one, right?
Sure,
Well, you got August, September.
yeah, absolutely,
Really?
sure.
That's interesting.
Well, their houses, nobody's in the house, right? And you go in, and now they're gonna renovate, because everybody's buying.
Oh, they've been sitting vacant for
They've been sitting vacant,
the winter.
or they're frozen, yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think I asked the same question back in like.
yeah, no,
And you
June,
just started
June.
on the floor?
Oh, no, back in June,
No.
when we had two in June that were frozen, I'm saying, how are they?
no, most of those are old, you know, abandoned, people are now in there and they're like, hey, meter's leaking, and you go in and it's been frozen. So. It's, you know, they don't freeze in July, they freeze, you know, in the winter and then.
Okay. Need a motion to accept the superintendent's report?
I'll make the motion.
Okay,
And one other thing when you're done.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay,
I copied you on the email, but anybody hear about the environmental working group? Okay, they're a group of people that every so many years they issue a tap water report and they basically tell you how horrible your tap water is. And they put it out in the public database, and all the information that they have in that database comes from information we've already released to the public over the last 8-9 years. And that's been uploaded to the federal database, so it's all publicly available in every which way, and we put it in our annual water quality report. So they issued such a new report on November 3rd. And Hudson Valley won. I mean, this has never happened in the city of Kingston before, but it happens in bigger areas, you know, the environmental working group is very, very efficient at getting it out to these small media outlets like the Penny Savers, you know, all those things. And they pick it up. And it gets a lot of buzz. But we got hit this time. And so Hudson Valley One picked it up and the article is disgusting. It's like, you know, how, you know, our levels are 15 times or 20 times, whatever. Environmental Working Group sells filters. On their website, you get sucked in, keep clicking down. So what they do is, we're in full compliance with everything. You can go on anybody go on our Facebook page? You can, and you can see my response that I put up there. And I'm looking for, I know I have it here. Anyway, what they do is they put this stuff out and it looks kind of like this. They put this report out, and this is for Kingston. And you can see there's these boxes with this 159 times X. So our utility had 15.9 parts per billion. The legal limit is 60, so we're way below that legal limit. But their recommended guideline is 0.1. It's not based on anything. It's based on them saying 0.1 is the cool place to be. And this gets published. So I wrote a reply because I think collectively, and Jim's on the Water Utility Council, I mean, I think our collective response is you gotta hit these people hard. You just, you know, you can't be nice.
Yeah.
So I basically, you know, put my response up there and it just said that, you know, they're basically unscrupulously trying to sell you a filter by scaring the daylights out of you.
Do you ever see that site, ban DHMO?
No.
Oh, you guys gotta Google it sometime, it's real interesting. Ban dihydrogen monoxide.
Oh, yeah, yes, I have.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it can cause death.
yeah, because again, you can drown it.
Yeah, you can drown.
You can drown in water.
And actually, if you, yeah, and if it's, you intake in too much, it also is going to deplete all your electrolytes, and
Yeah.
dihydrogen monoxide is the chemical name for water. And so there's a site that, this was as a hoax, and it was back in like 87 by UC Santa Cruz students. And they did it for, for internet, will you believe everything on the
Yeah, how
internet?
many people
Right.
buy it?
Yes, and oh my goodness, I used to do it as a prank with my students when I introduced formulas, naming and writing formulas. And I would have them, and it would be after, well, right before we would do covalent, and the kids, I stopped it after one time because this one girl, she actually took the petition and she was.
Yeah, she was gonna circulate it.
Everybody.
Change.org.
Anybody sign it?
And I felt so bad then because, you know, it was kind of like a joke and I didn't.
And then you're humiliating her.
Then exactly, yeah, so then after that, I was like, never did it again. She was such a nice person, she thought she was doing me a favor. But it's, you should look at that site, it's very convincing.
This was brought to my attention by one of my students in the class. That he happens to be the sewer superintendent for town of Ulster, about 10 o'clock the other night, and then at 5:30 or 6 o'clock, I got a text from Rebecca Martin. And she, which, you know, she was very nice and sent us, I didn't have to go to HB1, she actually sent me the article, and so if anybody wants the article, I will email it to you, I'll forward that. And my response and our Facebook, and she actually, her citizens, whatever their Facebook page is, she reprinted it on there. So, and then I got another note from Joe DeFalco, Joe 13 DeFalco.
Yeah, that's him.
But it was very nice. He was like, do you know about this? And everybody that contacted us was really very kind and wanted us to know about it. And, you know, they knew it wasn't true. So they were very, very kind, I have to say, and helpful.
You can tell Rebecca it was good that you never bottled it. We were shipping bad.
Warning label.
Water out.
Warning label on that.
Warning label.
You can bottle and ship, but just have a warning label.
She was very, it was, you know, it was, she helped me, she saved me time by sending me all the information, so I was kind of glad.
So this is a printed paper?
No, it's a website, it's the people that, it's Dan Martin and those guys, I think, that used to be the Kingston Times. Those to publish it, but this article is very, they basically reprinted it, and then they interviewed somebody named Eddie, the meat smoker, something, I mean, some clown or some character from someplace, and I'd rather drink, I mean, it was very, there was no journalism in this article.
I think that's the thing in the past. I don't think it's anyone national. Yeah.
Right,
So where was this printed?
HB1, Hudson Valley 1, I'm searching for Rebecca's email and I'll send it to everyone. I kind of think I might have already sent it to you because when I send anything out and post it like that, sometimes the Freeman picks it
Yeah, I
up.
started reading it and then I got involved with something else and
Right.
never went back to it.
But I always send a copy to the mayor because usually after, if I get a call from a reporter about something, they call him 2 seconds later. It's much easier for all of us to, you know, for not to play that game. And so we've been doing that. Anyway, but yeah, so,
Anything else?
no, that's it. I just wanna, am I forgetting anything?
We do anything with JCI, Jones.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, yes, Jones Chemical, that's our chlorine, our gas chlorine supplier. Several weeks ago, they hit us with a letter saying, well, first of all, Matt had just gone out to bid on this chemical back in July. So we had new prices from them in July. And they basically said, hey, our suppliers, you know, we had a price increase, and so, you know, please just pay us more money. And all my colleagues around, you know, one of the good things about the Water Utility Council is we share all this stuff. So Rochester got in a letter, I think Bethlehem got such a letter, Latham got a letter, and essentially everybody said, we're sorry, but tough. And we ran it past Bill and he said, you know, they have to honor the commitment. It's a municipal bid, and they gotta honor it. So they did. And then today we got another letter and they threw their supplier Olin Chemical under the bus and essentially pleaded, I think, for more. And Bill again looked at it and said, well, tell them politely, no, you have a contract. But what I think the message needs to be is it's a big budget impact for us because while we had an increase in July with the new bid, Other people on, like Latham just got new bids and they're up almost 40%.
40%.
40%. So what's a pound of chlorine, what are we paying now?
We're at 150.
We're at 150 a pound.
The letter we got asked it to go up 13% up to 170, I
Right.
believe.
And Latham now is up over that.
One of them like 300%.
One was 300%, yeah, I don't know what.
317% increase.
How much do we use?
Well, I knew you were gonna ask me that question, dang it.
So from 150 to what, 179?
170. We're at one, the contract is for 140.
Right.
And the increase in the request for the letter was would have been 1.70.
That's per pound.
Yep. Per pound, New York City hasn't gotten a letter yet because they use a different supplier than we do.
Those supplies are available. It's not-
We're hoping, if it's not, it becomes a homeland security issue.
And we buy it as a gas.
Yes, in some applications we do, at our plant, we buy it as gas.
Okay.
We buy hypochlorite, at Bidding Water, we switched when we did the renovation. That's an option that we were discussing, we can always make that swap. I wanna make sure that, that's not gonna be short-sighted, so. At the plant, pre and post, we're using probably 30 and 50, 45 pounds a day there. 45 pounds every day. And liquid alum, we're using 195 pounds a day at Bidding Water.
So 45 pounds of the gas?
Yep, 45 pounds as, as chlorine,
Yeah,
you have to add, what we add pre and post.
The alcohol too, what you said, the chlorine and, what do you use?
Chlorine, and we use gaseous chlorine at the plant, and we use liquid chlorine, at Bidding Water. They do the same thing. They're about equivalent.
Both prices are going up.
Not so far, we haven't gotten any. So, I'm sorry, the 195 was not correct. That was, I was reading over the liquid alum.
you use the liquid as bleach, sodium chloride?
15%. I'm sorry, we use about, gallons of hypo is about 40 gallons a day. 40 gallons, I'm so sorry.
So pounds, you're talking gallons.
Yeah, I can calculate the equivalent for you, that's easy to do.
Yes, well, and how much extra is it?
Which, we don't buy 50, we buy 12%.
Okay,
12% available. But we're using 45 pounds a day at the plant of gas.
okay. And that's what's going up.
That's so far. The hypo has not gone up yet, has it, Matt? I
We have
mean,
not received any.
we haven't received, it's a different supplier.
And they want to increase from how much? How much?
13%, so 150 pound to 170. That was the first letter that we got.
And Latham's just went up 30%.
$800.
They just want that now. You bid it next July.
20
Oh my
cents.
God,
Could be now
170.
170.
I think
so. Maybe
20 cents.
Was that all summer? That's one now.
$1.
that has nothing to do with that, it has to do with, they make.
high though.
Yeah, I'm sure it was, but for the same reason.
Per pound.
But this is, they give, the letter said Olin Chemical is the supplier of the two components to make the gas.
$8.
And they shut down 800 and some odd tons worth of production permanently because of the storms.
So
Mhm.
And so,
45 pounds, we have-
But isn't
So
it
it's-
cheaper now to use gas than liquid?
it's more efficient, yes, it is, but I think it's, when I do the math and I do the equivalents, we're using the same Infinity water as we're using out of the plant. So it may be a good time to think about switching to sodium hypo. There's drawbacks to both. Gas is a more dangerous chemical to deal with.
Yeah,
But operators are much too comfortable around 12% sodium hypo, which is like ultra strength bleach. And you can really get burned pretty badly with that.
yeah.
And I mean, you look down, all of a sudden you're looking at your leg because your pants burned through and and the only reason you look down is now your skin's burning.
Yeah, it's.
The gas you have a very healthy fear of.
Yeah, you're gonna smell, the gas is gonna immediately won't be able to breathe. So you know that.
Right.
And the other stuff, it just starts attacking your skin, you
Right.
don't know it until.
And
it
everything is
starts to hurt.
slimy, it's
Yeah.
gross. Anyway, but
Lovely stuff.
It's great, but at least we don't feed fluoride, because that's nasty stuff. Anyway, we'll have to look into that a little bit. The equipment, the chemical feed pumps for sodium hypo are relatively, it's pretty easy to switch. We have to make arrangements to have a place for, at Vinnie Water, we have 300-400 gallon totes that we fill. And the truck comes back up and instead of you have the option of getting new totes.
So what's the price for hypo?
Just close it. I think it was points.
You're talking about $2,700 a year increase. Approximately. And
April is currently at 1.3 in round numbers.
Per gallon.
Gallon.
Per gallon, we use about, I say 45 pounds a day. This month, we averaged 42.7 gallons a day.
The gas was 45 pounds per day. The hypo at Vinnie Water was,
About 45 gallons a day.
okay, say 40.
Well, the average this month was 42.7.
Would be cheaper even there. I mean, 130 versus, well,
I have
pound
to,
versus the
let me do,
gallon, but
we have to do the equivalents to make sure you gotta convert to pounds. The gallons of hypo, you gotta convert to pounds of dry chlorine per day, because it's only 12%, so it's not a hard calculation to do, but you wanna be able to compare apples to apples.
Yeah.
And then you wanna bring that over to a price.
well, yeah, do the math.
Yeah, and that's a good point, though, in July, when we get another
I
bid,
multiply
we're
it.
gonna go up by quite a bit.
365.
So at least we can have an alternative,
alternative.
you know, we can have an alternative.
Right. You
Yeah.
can,
And
and
hopefully the cost of the.
13%, basically, well, more than that.
Yeah.
Your budget's gonna be,
I assume the 16%.
What is the bleach, what is the percent that we buy? I don't remember.
Five.
Percent of.
5.
Only 4 or 5.
Five.
Okay, interesting.
5.
Okay, does it say on the bottom?
Yes,
Yeah.
it does, but it's very small.
Okay, I was saying.
5%. 5% available chlorine.
if it's Clorox, it's probably 5, if it's someplace else, it might be down to 4.
Okay,
You can get some super strength, some,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll look at ours, I think we have super strong.
but, mine is, I'm
But
like
it's super
5,
strength, probably 7.
I don't know.
8.
I know this is 12, you can buy 15, so we get 12 at Vinnie Water.
Okay, interesting.
Um,
And is that the highest percentage that is 15?
that I'm aware of,
Okay,
I'm aware of, yeah, it's 15. And,
okay.
So it's something we need to do about that
now,
right now, just increase the budget line item and be concerned come next July when we go back out to bid.
I just, we may be able to accommodate everything in our current space. Maybe we won't, I don't know. We'll have to look at that. It would be nice if you could fit enough 400 gallon totes in our current chlorine room, because we've already got a detector in there, we've already got ventilation in there. You're just taking out the old equipment and putting in the new. And we might be able to do that, but Derek, he knows the space that he's occupying with those 3 totes, and he'll have to pull up the equipments. Not, I just told that the other night. Anyway.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Thank you.
Second.
I'll second.
Favor? Opposed?
Bye, Bob.
Bye, Bob.
Bye. Have a good day. Rest of the week.
Happy Veterans Day, Bob.
Thank you.
Yeah, happy Veterans Day.
Well, you know, it's,
Let's go.